The Outlaw of Torn. 6.8 out of 10. A book that really doesn't have too much to say, but the words that it does use are poetic, elegant, and powerful. And I think worth a good weekend read. Hello, my name is Dawson Hunt. I will read the books that you've never heard of and will never get to reading. So, this book, Outlaw of Torn, is what I would call a Marvel book. And I think you that is a something that modern people understand a little bit more, that Marvel movies are movies that have a good plot, they have funny moments, good characters, you'll enjoy what you watch, but you're never left with anything too much to think about or to really contemplate. Nothing that challenges the soul or inspires too much. And I think The Outlaw of Torn fits perfectly into that category. Now, there's nothing bad this book does. The characters are all fun enough. The plot line is a classic lost prince turned outlaw who challenges the monarchy at large with a love interest and the greatest sword fighter of all time and the natural talent and the raw charisma. And I mean, just this cover alone is incredible and worth a read, I believe. Like, this is a beautiful, perfect boy man cover. But there's nothing in this book that other books haven't done better, but also distinguishes itself from other classic stories. It's a historical fiction book, so there is a little bit of play in that. As if you like medieval period time, then of course you'll fall in love with this and sword play and a hero who's a little bit timid and doesn't really know who they are or what they are. Um, but I don't really want to talk about this book too much, but rather what space this book falls into in the reading world. My one criticism with this book is that the language is sometimes kind of confusing. The narrator is in plain English, but the characters sometimes speak in Old English, and so you will, if you read it long enough, your brain will catch that and it'll kind of start to process the Old English normally, but then it switches back over to regular English and then back over to Old English, and it's kind of confusing in those ways. But I want to talk about, like, what does a book like this do in the book world? Like, what does this do on your bookshelf other than be? I mean, I would display this on my bookshelf because it's an incredible cover. But do you recommend this book to someone? Do you go back and read this book? Is this just a book that you give to your son to kind of get used to reading and storytelling and plot points and cliches? Um, you know, who is this really for? I think in when this book was written, that was a very easy question. Of, well, it's entertainment. It's a book that fills time, that has enjoyable characters, enjoyable moments. Um, something you can invest a couple of nights into. It's not that long of a book, but this space is filled so much better nowadays, right? We have Netflix, we have YouTube, we have TikTok, we have Spotify. Our access to hobbies are literally endless. You can go on Amazon and pick up a hobby kit starter for any hobby you want for like 10, 15, $20. Like, Japanese making, broken pieces of pottery whole again using gold. Yeah, you can get a set of that for like $10 on Amazon. So there's no limit to what you could be doing. And so books really have to fight for this space. Like, they have to fight so hard because book is the longest commitment outside of like a movie or TV show to complete, and they're so solo. Like, unless you're reading the popular of the popular books, they you're not. I don't know anyone who's read the Outlaw of Torn. I don't know anyone who's even talked about this book before. So who am I supposed to talk to this book about? The internet? Sure. There's conversation to be had there of what it looks like to build that community online. But really, I think books have kind of, built a shelf of this elevates the mind of a person in a different way than the other media does. Words themselves have so much power. The stories that a book is able to tell can and I think should be different than the story a movie is able to tell or a TV show. But this isn't that. This isn't elevated media. This isn't an elevated book. This is the action movie at your movie theater. And that action movie is an hour and a half, 2.5 hours long, and you're watching it with friends and you get some popcorn and you make some laughs and has some cool effects and fight scenes. Uh, but this book is still almost 300 pages long, and it's still a slower burn of just all books are slow burns in my opinion. Don't talk to me about like actual slow burn of a book. Um, but this book I think is buried in time due to where books have kind of fallen in the modern landscape of things. And I'm not sure if that's sad or not. I love Marvel movies. I love action movies. I love the cheesy rom-com. I love you know a lot of what art has become. I think some of it is so great, but I don't think this is the book I recommend to someone. And I think that says a lot about this book. That while it might be my favorite read of the year at 6.9, that this is not the type of book that I want to continue to read. I don't read this book and I go, man, I can't wait for another one of these books. And maybe that's okay. Maybe just reading an innate growth process and sharpening of the mind and slowing down of the soul that makes this worth it in those regards. But I think a lot of books can probably do that and better. Um, so, The Outlaw of Torn is a genre of book that I think is called pulp fiction, that has gone away. And I don't know when it comes back, how it comes back, if it should come back. This compared to like the Suicide Squad, it's probably a better read for your soul. But can I say it's so much better than what the Suicide Squad is trying to do than what this book is trying to do? Not really. So that's my review, The Outlaw of Torn. If you've read this book or thoughts on the pulp genre and where it's gone and where it's doing and where it should go and how it fits into our lives now, let me know. I'd be very interested in that. So there you go. Best read of the year. I hope to read other books that are better.